The hunt for Daniel Morcombe's killer is all the more traumatic by the fact that Brett Peter Cowan had a sordid history of pedophilia. After attacking Tim Nichols back in 1987, Cowan moved to Darwin, where he'd strike again, and this time he'd try to kill the boy. Tonight, for the first time, Cowan's then-girlfriend speaks out, and as you'll see, she's still haunted by every detail. It was Darwin, 1993, and this woman, Tracy, was just 18. Little did she know the man she was sharing a caravan with here, her very first boyfriend, was a predator who was about to strike again. And even now, it's harrowing for her to talk about it. People have described Brett Cowan as an animal, as a monster. And you got very, very close to this man, didn't you? How would you describe him?
At the beginning, before I knew anything, charming and confident, very happy. But that was just a cover for the evil man he is. He's not even a man. I don't even know what to call him.
Clearly he's very good at living two lives, isn't he?
Very good. He's fought a lot of people.
This is Tracy's first time back to the caravan park in 20 years. And the little boy who was attacked, how close did he live to you?
2 caravans away. 20 steps.
This is also the first time Tracy's retraced the events of the evening of Thursday, the 23rd of September, 1993, when Brett Cowan closed in on his 6-year-old neighbour. How difficult would it have been for Brett to lure that little boy down here?
Oh, not difficult. He trusted Brett, he knew Brett, and he must have said something to him. Like, he couldn't have taken him screaming, people would have heard, you know.
It was just like any other get-together. Tracy and friends from the caravan park were having their weekly barbecue. Brett was still at work, or so Tracy thought.
Can you go and find your brother? Quick, go and find him for Mummy. Mummy's just going to have a drink. Go and find
And the young boy was nowhere to be found. As dusk fell, his mother became frantic.
He was kidnapped sometime between 5 and 7 p.m. Brett took him out the side gate at BP Palms Caravan Park. Took him into the bushes, molested him for I don't know how long, and left him in a boot of a burnt-out car with rocks and bricks and everything on top, and left for dead.
By 7:30 p.m, Brett was back, hiding in his caravan. As the hours wore on, there was still no sign of the boy. Did you see Brett that day? That night?
That night, yes.
What was his demeanour like?
Very weird.
What was it about his behaviour that was really weird?
He came home and had sex with me. I didn't like the smell or what he was doing to me. I told him to leave me alone.
Covered in blood, with a punctured lung and broken collarbone, both eyes hemorrhaging because during the rape Cowan had tried to suffocate him, somehow, miraculously, the 6-year-old managed to find his way out of the bush and back to the caravan park. The attack was so violent, the injuries so extensive, it was thought the child had been in a road accident.
And for days we thought he'd been hit by a car. For days, 2 to 3 days. And then word got around that something more sinister had happened.
What was the word? What were people saying?
They were looking for somebody in the park that had kidnapped him and molested him. They were looking for a rock spider.
So you had no inkling, you had no suspicion that the rock spider was Brett Cowan, your boyfriend. What was his reaction to the word that this child had been molested by a pedophile?
Oh, we got to get that bastard. We got to find him, you know, whoever he is.
And you believed that he had a hatred of pedophiles?
He wanted to kill him himself. If he said, we'll find him, we'll get him.
Cowan was sentenced to 7 years for his brutal attack on that 6-year-old boy here in Darwin, but served just 4.5 years after telling police he knew he needed help. Even then, a lone psychologist raised doubts about Cowan's claims of remorse. But the judge, despite noting that Cowan was a pathological liar, gave him the benefit of the doubt. Clearly, a horrible pattern had been set. Opportunistic attacks on very young boys, with Cowan becoming ever more violent. It seems, with his release, the abduction and murder of Daniel Morcombe was inevitable. Are you comfortable with the priority you gave to Cowan at the time?
Along with the other suspects we were looking at, absolutely. And bearing in mind, he was never considered anything else but a high-level person of interest.
Assistant Commissioner Mike Condon says police first interviewed Cowan, a known pedophile, 2 weeks after Daniel's disappearance. There were holes in his alibi, but even still, they didn't have the proof they needed. Considering his past, considering that he'd placed himself at the spot where Daniel had gone missing, considering that there had been some doubt about his timings, why wasn't he the person of highest interest?
Because there were other persons of interest who were familiar with the area, that if you were ticking off boxes, they ticked the boxes as well.
20,000 leads, 15,000 inquiries with Crime Stoppers. This investigation was 10 times the size of most homicide cases. While police were swamped with information, so too were Bruce and Denise, who tirelessly followed up every call and clue and conducted many of their own searches.
We're looking, in a junk pile, we found some red cloth material, and of course, we were immediately drawn that is potentially Daniel's T-shirt. So,
We went back to that one, searching on our hands and knees, scraping with our fingernails were all scraped. Remember that one?
it's flashing green. I think it's working.
Their investigations took them into a world they never wanted to see, to talk to scumbags they never wanted to meet.
I'll sit here. Is that all right?
Yeah. You were confronting pedophiles.
Yeah.
You
But they're generally weak, gutless people, really.
Did you hear some terrible things?
Oh, look, over the journey, people fed us some shocking lies,
so many
really.
different stories of what happened to Daniel.
Yeah.
Drugged, smashed with the steel bar, in the bushes, hidden under excavators, and hundreds of things, hundreds of different things, emails and letters we used to get all the time.
But ultimately, their biggest win was finally convincing the coroner to hold an inquest in 2010 to cross-examine the long list of persons of interest.
Of course, the Queensland coroner has additional powers to police. They can ask a person of interest very specific questions under oath, and they can be compelled to answer those. So we thought that was the right way to go, and it proved a game breaker.
On the 31st of March 2011, 7 years after Daniel was taken, Brett Peter Cowan, now living in Perth, was forced to appear at the inquest in Brisbane.
As Cowan was walking into the courtroom, I just got a really cold shiver and the whole courtroom just went, oh my God, and I turned around to Bruce and I went, my God, that's him. And he was just horrible. He was horrible.
He was asked a series of questions at the inquest. One of his responses was that he couldn't have abducted Daniel because...
No, he said he didn't. Daniel was 13 years old. He liked 6 to 8 year old boys, so he wouldn't have done it. And we just went, oh my God, you've got to be joking. Now, the police knew all this as well. But, I mean, after the coronial, we nearly flew over to Perth.
To do what?
To find him. But luckily we didn't, because we didn't know the covert operation had started a few days beforehand.
Independently of the inquest, police were reviewing the Morcombe case, at which time Cowan's alibi fell apart. He was due to fly home to Perth after 2 days in the witness box, and it was now police launched their audacious undercover operation.
Where are you going to Perth?
Cowan is now the prime suspect. How would you describe the police operation that happens from there?
Absolutely remarkable. Who would have thought such a wacky covert operation would work like that?
By the time Cowan was on the flight back home to Western Australia, police had planted an undercover cop right next to him, going by the name of Joe. They exchanged phone numbers, contact has been made.
00. Yep. 776.
What Cowan so clearly thought was just a chance meeting with a like-minded fellow passenger was the in police so desperately needed. Cowan was hooked, and so the predator was now the prey. This 5-hour friendship turned into a massive 5-month-long undercover investigation, so detailed, so ambitious, it needs to be seen to be believed. Coming up, police set the trap to catch a killer.
Police! On your knees!
The moment Cowan's past catches up with him. What was his reaction when he saw you? And the man who found Daniel for Bruce and Denise.
That one phone call changed everybody's life.
That's next on 60 Minutes.